Updates to the RFD payload side software. These updates are only necessary if you are supplementing the antenna tracker with GPS reports over the 900 MHz system. These updates will not hurt if you are not supplementing the antenna tracker with GPS updates from RFD. And there are several methods of doing these updates, but the easiest is going to be just to reflash the SD card, and a couple little changes to the SD card will require hooking the Pi up to a monitor and a keyboard. Along with this video and the ISO, there are a couple of PowerPoint or PDFs provided. We'll be using the Pi as a computer. This goes over how to hook the Pi up to a monitor and a keyboard. And there's also the PDF of how to make the SD card from an ISO. These instructions can also be found in the MSGC project box. July slides, almost final. We have using the Pi as a computer and making the new SD card. All these instructions in here are still relevant. There's a couple of nuances in the instructions that I will also cover in this video. So it does help to read both. I suggest reading both the instructions and the video. It doesn't matter which order, but I go over both of them before you start, just to make sure you're familiar with the process. Using the Pi as a computer, hooking up to HDMI, you want to make sure the HDMI is connected before you connect power to the USB. If you have your Pi on the payload, that is okay. Just disconnect your batteries from any of the battery ports and disconnect the little power port off the GPIO header. This will just prevent any power going through USB back to the power port. Also the HDMI, make sure the HDMI is plugged in first before you hook power using the USB micro. You can just use any regular USB micro cable. And the 5-volt power supply provided at the July workshop, or you could use any phone charger power supply that has at least 1 amp, preferably 1500 milliamps. So make sure you connect this first, or else once it starts, if there's no video device connected, the output will be turned off. There will be no video out turned on. Flashing the SD card, you'll need two programs. There's the Win32 disk imager and the SD formatter. SD formatter isn't critical, but both of these programs are on the ground station computers. The SD formatter, you can just use this to format the old SD card. You're going to use Win32 disk imager to flash the SD card. These instructions are inside of the making the new SD card. If you go to slide 7, is the beginning of writing an image to an SD card. Before this is reading from the SD card and making a copy of your SD card. I suggest doing this when you're done, just so that you have a backup of the new image, or if you make any changes to your card, you have a backup of your SD card. But beginning on slide 7, page 7 of the PDF, there's instructions on writing an image to the SD card. I'm going to go over this really quickly in the video, since these instructions are much more detailed than what I can cover in a video. A couple of steps here at the end, expanding the SD card and logging in, is where you'll need to connect the Pi to a monitor and keyboard, which is also covered in this other slideshow, using the Pi as a computer. We'll also need to set up or change the name of the Wi-Fi network for ad hoc. We will be going into that and changing that. Those instructions are also covered in here. Those same instructions are also covered in a couple different places in the documentation on the Google Drive and provided at the July workshop. So once you have the new SD card flashed, then you can go ahead and hook the Pi up to the computer and I'll go over the login and the different steps we'll have to do on the computer next. Okay, once you're at the login screen of the Pi, username is Pi, P-I, password Raspberry, all lowercase, and we're going to go into change directories into etc network. If you do a ls, it'll list the contents of that directory. And the interfaces.rfd, if we want to update the Wi-Fi name for the access point of the ad hoc network. So if you sudo nano interfaces.rfd, nano is the text editor, and right now you'll see under wireless ESSID is May001. You want to change this to whatever your registration number is, this silver Sharpie that was on the laptop computer. This is the name that the laptop will recognize as a wireless access point. If you don't have the correct name in here, it will not work properly. The ground station computer will not be able to connect over ad hoc. Once you make your changes, Control O to save, hit enter, Control X, or you could just hit Control X. It'll ask you, do you want to save your changes? Hit Y for yes. To double check your changes, just go into cat interfaces RFD. Make sure that your changes are in there. Once that is done, you need to copy. Make sure that the interface for RFD is copied into the interfaces file. So do sudo cp for copy. Interfaces.rfd is your source into interfaces, which is your destination. So now if we're to do cat interfaces, make sure it did copy that file in there. The only reason we have these other versions of the interfaces file is so that you can just copy them into interfaces without having to edit this file every time. So when using with the RFD and being able to connect over ad hoc, you want to use the interfaces.rfd and just copy that into the interfaces file with this command here. Sudo cp for copy. First file name is your source. Second file name is your destination. And once that is done, you're finished with the updates with the RFD SD card. Now just to go over some changes, what were actually changed in these versions. If you're to go to your home directory just by typing CD, it'll always give you the prompt with the $sign. You know you're at the home directory. You can do a pwd to give your path. You are at home user Pi. Inside of here are the RFD payload directory. So if we change into the RFD payload directory, there's a different program in here, still images and command relay USB radio. This is the new RFD program that can interface with the GPS and send coordinates, GPS coordinates over 900 megahertz to the ground station to help supplement the antenna tracker. Since this file name was changed, also the cron tab had to be changed. Inside of here, we had to change the file name. Now, the reason it's like this is how it's set up on the GitHub. Eventually, we really should change this name to the same name on both programs so that you don't have to go in here and edit this. This should just be another branch of each other on the GitHub repo. But as of right now, we just edited the cron tab to match the name of the program. If you're inside of your RFD payload directory, you can do git status. That'll show you which branch you're on. We're on MNPi, or you could even type in git branch with nothing after it. It'll give you a list of your branches. The master branch is the original one. If you want to switch to the master branch, say git checkout master. Now if you do a ls, you can see the name of the program is different. Now if you switch back to this version and the name of that program is RFD Python py.py, you're going to have to go into the cron tab, the sudo cron tab -e. You're going to have to go down here to the file name and change this file name here at the end to the same file name as this, RFD Python, RFD_Python_pi.py. But right now, if you want to run the new Minnesota code, the new updates are already in there. If you did not change branches, as soon as you flash the SD card, you will be on the MNPy branch. You would not have to change anything. Sounds like it's spelled checkout properly. But I'm just showing you this just so you can see what changes were made. There's a new branch MNPy that's running the new code. Then also to recognize the GPS, you really don't have to edit this or change anything in here. I just want to show you the other changes that were done and why this ISO is different. If you go into etc udev rules.d, there's a couple of udev rules in there. The one that we added is a 10 USB serial rules. And all this is, it's adding some identification for the GPS. When you plug the GPS in, this will show up as a /dev/GPS file path to the GPS, and that's how the Python program accesses the GPS. So if you wanted to update your SD card without flashing the ISO, you would have to get on the internet, and this can be tricky depending on which Wi-Fi network you're on. And to change those Wi-Fi settings or change the network settings, you have to connect the Pi to a monitor and a keyboard anyways. And then just to avoid the possible hassle of trying to get it on a network, most universities, like our school, the way they manage their Wi-Fi network, it can be kind of difficult to get the Raspberry Pi on the network. So flashing the ISO is the easiest way of doing it. If not, you can go in there and edit this etc udev rules.d and add the text that I just had in there. And then to get the updated you can't talk and type at the same time. If you want to get the updated software, you would have to get onto the internet and do a git pull from GitHub to grab the newest code and then change the branches from the master branch to the Minnesota branch. So inside here is the USB rules. Okay, so just to summarize real quick, we've added this line of text to a file called 10 USB serial rules and added that to the etc udev rules.d directory. And then in the RFD payload, we have just switched branches to MNPy. All this is done when you flash the ISO. I'm just showing this so that you know what was changed on the SD card, or if you want to go back and change it. If you know Linux and feel comfortable navigating around the command line, you can go ahead and make these changes. If you wanted to get onto the internet, the easiest way is to go into etc network Can't spell and type at the same time I'm talking. The interfaces.org, you can just copy that into CP for copy, org into interfaces. Now these are the original settings. This here will let you connect over Ethernet using DHCP pretty easily. The easiest way to do that is connect it Ethernet to the RJ45 jack. And most networks, if you're on the university network, it may not let you just log into the network over DHCP, but if you're at home or another network that's not tightly managed, that would be the easiest way to get on the internet. Again, if you flash the SD card with the new ISO, you do not need to get it on the internet. I was just showing you these steps if you want to try this yourself. If you do have any other questions, please go to the forum at eclipse.proboards.com or get in touch with any of us at Montana Space Grant, and happy flying.